Hello everyone, my name is John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and welcome back to Doctor Who. It's Series 14 slash Season 1. I'm undecided yet how I'm gonna go with this. But yeah, it's the first new series for the 15th Doctor for Ncuti Gatwa, and 2 new episodes aired, and I'm here to talk about them. So today we're going to talk about the first new episode of Series 14, namely Space Babies. I'm gonna talk spoiler-free for a couple of minutes in the beginning, just so you know what some of my general thoughts and opinions were on the episode, and then we're gonna jump straight into spoilers, but don't worry, I'll give you a warning beforehand. Okay, so going from the Church on Ruby Road, which was the Christmas special, which introduced us to this new Doctor and his new companion, Ruby, I quite liked the Christmas episode. I thought it was alright. I think it was a good introduction to this new Doctor. I vibed with him quite well in his first appearance. I was still a little on guard with the overall vibe and the chemistry of this like soft reboot of the show, but overall I had positive opinions on it. Was going into this new series with positive expectations. So what did I think of Space Babies as a series opener? Mostly okay. I was honestly a bit underwhelmed by the overall vibe of the episode. Like, we have seen much worse from Doctor Who, but we've also obviously seen much better. But I still think overall it's a good enough start into like this new version, you could say, of Doctor Who, since they're going with a sort of soft reboot vibe here, which you can definitely tell right from the beginning. They do a lot of like treading old ground with some information that seasoned viewers are already quite familiar with. Like, the Doctor basically gives like a this is Doctor Who 101 kind of speech to Ruby about who he is, where he comes from, what the planet is he comes from, what happened to Gallifrey and all that, what the TARDIS is. So we get a lot of repetition on that information, which to seasoned viewers, to older viewers, so someone like me, felt a little bit awkward, felt a little bit stilted, and very much felt a bit on the nose, like the Doctor is basically talking to the new audience now that is maybe coming in here, sort of like giving you a quick rundown of that's the most important information that you sort of need to know. And I loved how they were able to basically give you the most important information without spoiling anything too important in between, which I know because I watched this with my girlfriend who doesn't really know too much about the canon of Doctor Who. Like, I'm introducing them to the show. We're like at series 2 right now, but they don't know really yet about all the stuff that happens basically in between all the other series and now. And with the little speech the Doctor gives in this episode, she basically got up to speed with the most important information without getting major spoilers, which was kind of fun in a weird way. So I could see this as a nice introduction to new viewers, since this new version of the show, so to speak, has very much the vibe of we're welcoming new viewers. It's like sort of jumping on point for people who have maybe been wary in the past if they should watch this show. So they're very much going with that. I could see this being a good idea for new viewers. However, I could also see this as more of a negative thing for more seasoned viewers who will be like, okay, yeah, we already know all this. This feels a tiny bit stilted. This feels very much like sort of teacher-ish, like turning to the camera and being like, here are the most important points of Doctor Who that you've missed since it aired in 1963. So that felt a little bit off in some places, but I appreciate the general idea of that. So we'll sort of remain with this theme of retreading old ground with this episode. They're definitely mentioning some stuff that we know from the reboot in 2005. I'm going to jump a bit more into that when I talk about spoilers. That's sort of if you like this or not, maybe it depends a bit on your own opinion if Doctor Who goes a bit more with nostalgia. I personally felt that it felt a little bit off. Like, to me, it felt like they were retreading too much old ground. Like, some of the stuff is very, very similar to episodes we had in series 1 in 2005, like downright to some jokes being repeated in this episode. I was like, no, they're not doing that again. Like, I know this. Like, come on, Russell T Davies, you already did this like almost 20 years ago. Why are you doing it now? Like I don't know. I just didn't really vibe with that. But luckily the episode sort of like stirs into another direction after like the first couple of minutes with the space station, and naturally there are space babies at some point, as the title of the episode says, and there's also a monster on the space station that they have to deal with. And maybe to speak on this overall story with like the babies and the monster that's on the station was okay, was very much like Doctor Who kind of camp and sci-fi story that was trying to be like very cutesy and a little bit childish and very family friendly, but also like very cheesy and campy. Like there are gonna be some jokes in here where the humor is either gonna hit or miss depending on what your kind of humor is. For me, it was more miss than hit, but again, that's sort of more of a personal opinion depending on what your sense of humor is, what your kind of humor is. And I mean, Doctor Who has always been campy, so that's not really what my problem with this is. It's just, it's not maybe it's mostly not my kind of thing, so that's maybe why I was not vibing with it as much. There are good moments in the episode. I think the chemistry between the Doctor and Ruby is still a lot of fun to watch, even though I think they're going a little too far with it already. Like they're already hitting some emotional points in this where I'm like, they haven't even known each other for that long. They've known each other for like one, maybe two adventures, and that's it. So I don't know, I feel like they're already going quite deep with this relationship, whereas we haven't even seen that much of them yet. But the actors have great chemistry with each other, I think. I'm really enjoying Ncuti Gatwa's energy as the new Doctor. Very charismatic, very, very outgoing and extroverted, like really like jumping into the adventure with a lot of fun and a big grin, but still like still a bit off, still a bit different, but still very much the Doctor, I feel. And with Ruby, I enjoy her for the most part, but I'm still sort of missing like that special thing about her character that makes me really like deeply care about her. I know she has this whole deal with her family and her birth parents, especially her mother, which naturally also comes up in this episode because this episode is about babies. That's sort of coming in here as well. But I'm enjoying her, seeing her on screen. I'm still sort of waiting for the episode to really give me something that makes me care about her. But in general, those two I think work okay in this episode, and the story they're involved in is alright. Like it hits all the classic notes from a classic Doctor Who episode. Like there's some weird funny shenanigans, camp humor, there's some emotional bits in there as well, a monster that seems very weird and scary, so there's all that. The babies were fine. I think the CGI on them is a tiny bit off-putting because you know, obviously they have real babies there, like as actors, but they use CGI to like make the mouths move so they can talk, because they do sound basically almost like adults. That looked a tiny bit weird in some scenes, so you maybe, I don't know, you have to see for yourself if that works for you or not. But overall, I think, honestly, it was okay. Like I said, we've seen much worse, but I honestly expected a little bit more from like a series, like a series opener. We've definitely seen better in that regard, and there are some moments, like vibe-wise, humor-wise, that just didn't hit for me, honestly. So if I had to give it a number, maybe like a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. Like, it's alright, but we've definitely seen much, much better, and I don't think that this showcases yet what this new series could actually be. Okay, so those are my spoiler-free thoughts. If you haven't seen the episode yet, you might want to jump off now, as I'm going to jump into spoiler talk for this episode. Okay, let's talk some spoilers for this episode. Like I said, there were moments in this that I do think worked. For example, I did like the character of Nanny, of Jocelyn, who was eventually revealed to be an actual person that lived on the station. Like you could really tell what her motivation for her character was, how deeply she cared about these babies, that she wanted to keep them safe, wanted to take care of them. But I do think the episode could have gone a bit more into depth with her character. I think that would have been interesting to explore what you know, how she spent her time on the space station for so long, because she mentions that she's been alone for such a long time. But I feel like the episode only hits like some one or two major details or personality traits for the character, and then it's like, okay, that's the character. Now you know who she is. I thought there was more potential to her character there. With the babies, the general idea of space babies is okay, it's cute. They really did choose the most adorable babies they could have found. They're really, really cute. The joke with the doctor keeps correcting himself throughout the episode to be like, babies, oh, I mean, space babies. Well, was funny the first 2 or 3 times, but got a little bit annoying as the episode went on, to be honest. But I get it. I mean, it's the shtick for this episode. The babies themselves weren't really characters, so to speak. So we end up being on this space station where they find that, like, incubated babies, and then it's a baby breeding station. And then they have those like 8 or 10 babies there who are basically managing the space station. And as a concept, that is wacky, that is weird, but really interesting. And I would have thought we'd go a bit more in depth with what these babies have been through, so to speak. But they really just, again, hit mostly like the major notes that you sort of need. You know, the background that, you know, they were born there and then the crew had to abandon the station and the babies were left to their own devices. That's it. But that's basically all the information we get. We get like one hint at what happened to the crew. We see like little videos of them saying goodbye and that they don't agree with that they have to leave the station. Again, that was an interesting aspect to the story that I thought could have been explored a bit more in detail. They sort of they explain it retroactively, like retrospectively through the doctor, sort of just explaining, yeah, they didn't have enough money or something, and then they had to like take off the crew off the space station, but it's illegal to turn off breeding stations, so it was still running. Again, just like a very bare bones sort of explanation that I thought had a lot more potential down the line. And then we have the bogeyman. We have this weird monster that basically lives downstairs, so to speak, that the babies are very, very scared of, which a monster that looks, honestly, I was describing it, it looks like a weird anglerfish. That sort of is what it looked like to me. A cool design, I thought, like it worked well, it was scary enough. I think it was a good idea. It was mostly like kept in the shadows, so that they could, you know, keep it mostly in the unknown. It was a bit more spooky and dark. And then as the episode goes on, of course, they find out what exactly this monster is. Then, of course, they take it very literal. That it is the bogeyman made out of snot and bogies, which, I mean, it's very Doctor Who. It's also very disgusting, purposefully so. I'm getting a loud, disgusting noise from my girlfriend off screen. Agreed. Very deservedly so. I will say that is very much Doctor Who. Again, it's like this part of the camp humor, sort of, that's always been part of the show. I mean, we had farting aliens in series 1 of Doctor Who, so that isn't really that much of a new thing. It's the kind of thing where you have to like sort of expect, if you have to see if this is something you like or not, depending on what your humor is. So obviously, kind of disgusting, little bit icky. Let's hope Ruby got a shower after what happened to her in that tunnel. Yeah, so monster made out of bogies, quite literally. Disgusting, yes. Why did it end up looking like an anglerfish? I don't know. They never explained why it looked like that. My theory was that it's a mutant baby. And for a second, I honestly thought they were gonna go that way, because when that scene comes up where where Nanny is trying to get rid of the monster, like blasted out the airlock, the doctor like turns around and is like, and says something along the lines of, oh, it's one of you, or it's one of the babies. And I thought for a second they were gonna go that way, that maybe the bogeyman, that this monster is like a mutated baby that once lived on the station. But apparently, no, that was more meant in like a figurative sense, we don't really find out much more about the monster. Like, they literally just, the only scene we get after that is, oh, hey, look, the monster is okay. And it's hanging out in the airlock. And that's it. That's sort of the last thing we get on this monster and what they're gonna do with it. Like, is it still violent? Is it still going to attack the babies when they go to that planet where they want to stay? We have no idea what's gonna happen. Because we get, like, almost no other information on this monster, which honestly felt kind of off. Like, Nanny tries to get rid of it, and it's sort of framed as this emotional moment, which didn't really work for me, to be honest. And then they just, like, reintroduce Nanny to the babies. We don't really see... I wish we would have had a scene where, like, Nanny goes and presents herself to the babies, so to speak, for the first time, and we get, like, an emotional scene. But no, they skip right past that, and she's just hanging out with the babies now, taking care of them. And then the Doctor tries to, like, bring the space station to the planet where they can take refuge, and they do it by making the space station fart into the universe. And the space station literally looks like a butt when it happens. Again, very much this campy Doctor Who kind of humor, very childish. Personally, not my thing. I thought that was very much overdoing it. The jokes in general in this episode are very much on the nose with what you would expect with this kind of premise. Like, the general vibe of this entire episode is that for me it just felt a little bit too off based on the humor. And I know Doctor Who has done this kind of stuff before, but I felt like in this episode it didn't work as well as it could have, I think. And I feel like a lot of the themes or topics or details that they addressed within the episode felt very much underbaked. They could have gone much more into depth with some of these moments or with some of these characters. And at the end of it all, like when the Doctor and Ruby go back to the TARDIS, they have like this little emotional bonding moment where the Doctor already presents Ruby with a key to the TARDIS, which I thought was very fast, very quickly. I know, has been done before in other episodes, but I usually don't like it when companions are given the key this early, because I feel like they sort of maybe need to earn the Doctor's trust beforehand, like show that they're quote-unquote worthy, I don't know, of the key. But again, it was one of those, and that's like the last thing I want to talk about here, it felt very much, again, reminiscent of moments from the 2005, like, early series of the show. So let's talk about that here at the finish. I didn't like how much this episode retread moments from series 1, like back with Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper, especially because this episode is set on a space station, which is their first adventure out of space together, and it's very much, of course, reminiscent of the 9th Doctor and Rose's first adventure, which was also on a space station in the future. So they very much do this on purpose, retreading old ground, retreading old elements and jokes. We get like the space station that doesn't move anywhere, weird people on the space station, unexpected monster. We get this moment of just like the companion staring out a window into the universe, thinking that it looks marvelous or that it looks weird, spectacular. Then, where it became a bit too much for me with the retreading of old ground is when the Doctor takes Ruby's phone and gives it like an upgrade, which is exactly what also happens in the space station episode with Rose and the Doctor, where he does like a little bit of jiggery pokery and upgrades her phone. It's exactly the same thing, and then Ruby calls her mom, just like Rose calls her mom. And it felt, honestly, it felt very much reminiscent of that. They even do the same exact joke with joking about the bill for that phone call, which was obviously like light years away and stuff like that. They reusing old jokes, old storylines from like almost 20 years ago, and it was kind of cute and funny at the beginning, but honestly, I thought it was done too much in this episode, and I hope they will stop doing that in future episodes of the series. And obviously at the end we also get this moment of, you know, Ruby gets the key for the first time. And I don't know, it was just moments like this that felt a bit off to me, where I very much felt like, oh, I hope Russell T Davies is not trying too hard to be like his old self, to be like his old episodes. I really, honest to God, hope he's not trying to like repeat the glory days, so to speak, because I honestly do not want to see that, because this Doctor and this new companion, they deserve better. Like, the actors are doing a really, really good job, I think, but the writing, in this first episode at least, feels a little bit too weak, feels a little bit too like undercooked, underbaked. Like, they do deserve better. There's a lot of energy going around. They have great chemistry, and I feel like they there's a lot of good stuff that they could do with these actors. I just feel like this episode wasn't the best to like sort of showcase what they can actually do. And at the end of the episode, I didn't hate it, but I also have seen much better from the show. And at the end of it all, I was fine with it, but also a bit underwhelmed. So those were my thoughts on the first episode of Series 14 with Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor. So what are your thoughts on the episode? Please do tell me all your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I know there's a lot of buzz and discussion going on in the Doctor Who bubble right now. So I would love to hear what some of your thoughts are on this, if you think this was a strong season opener or not. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. And I'll see all of you very soon. Goodbye.